Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, and anywhere else in between you might be. Uh, this this lesson in my class is non-affiliated, but can be used for different spiritual beliefs, either Christian, Jedi, or even just self-growth. But uh, me being a Jedi, this is in non-affiliation with that in itself. These are just lessons to help one grow as a person and to hopefully help you get through your difficulties. So, in that being said, I shall commence forth. And this one is on self searching and self reflection. Becoming honest with ourselves and facing those truths that have hindered us in growth. Holding on to those excuses that continue to sabotage our progress. We set boundaries within ourselves to maintain the changes that are enacted. There will and does come a time that we inevitably have to look at ourselves and become honest. Not look, not to look good or to show how we have changed, but look deep within and face our fears and wrongs and what we do as Jedi. Now, as a disclaimer, this is written for primarily a Jedi group I was with. However, this still goes along as a universal. Now, continuing, this step isn't about others, but the individual, and take necessary painful steps while working to embrace this. This is not to belittle ourselves, but to start to turn away from what we Jedi can become, what we envision as a better version of ourselves. This is an individual journey that we must face on our own as an individual, and the trial within us to succeed and benefit from to help benefit others as well. Now, I'm going to take a part here from it, an excerpt, and go from there. Now let's look back here. Becoming honest with ourselves and facing those truths that have hindered us in growth. Now, there are different types of truths. There's truth of the actual, truth of one's own truth and being truthful. And then there's a truth of a truth we live by, our own truth, which in a way, in some ways, can be a justification for what we do. And a lot of what I hear is that it's been going around a lot is my truth. Well, my truth is a way, as I see it, to only live by the ideals that suit our purpose, our narratives. But this also, if we're not careful, can exclude other ideas and thoughts that may challenge our own, which is always a good thing. We always want to be challenged in our thought. And this helps us grow from where we are. Now, these truths can also, in a way, like I was saying, close us off. And those truths that have hindered us in growth, those truths that I'm referring to are the ones that we think are that we use as excuses. They, in a way, are a comfort to let us stay where we are. A place that, yes, in a sense is a truth, but it's not the actual truth, the reality of the situation of where we are and who we have become and who we are as a person in our actions. Now, holding on to those excuses, as I was mentioning, that continue to sabotage our process, our old ideas, our old thoughts, our old behaviors that served us, that we believe may still continue to serve us, but we continually run into roadblocks. And in a way, as I mentioned, sabotage what we do, our progress. And so, and there's this thing, what's known as self sabotage, that without recognizing things that we've been holding on to, tend to still roadblock us and thus prevent us from progressing. So we fall back into old patterns and behaviors and thoughts. So we set boundaries within ourselves to maintain the changes that are enacted. And what I mean by, once we discover these internal truths about ourselves that we have been holding on to, we set boundaries to progress from those and work to not go back. The excuses of, oh, I'm this way. Oh, I've been raised this way. Oh, this seems to work well for me. Does it? And if it did, why is the world you live in continually full of chaos and continually met with opposition, and thus creates one in their own victimhood because it's self-created? And we can set that up by not actually looking at what is really happening around us and our behaviors that are influenced from it. There, and here's another part, there will and does come a time that we inevitably have to look at ourselves and become honest. This is the time we have to sit down and get that mirror and really look at ourselves. Look at where we are. Look at how we're acting. Look at our behavior. Look at our thoughts. The ideals that we are attempting and trying to stand with. Now, the question I ask is, are those ideals your own, or are they other people's that have influenced you, that have been said to be truths? Or are they just a way to sell an idea? It's a question we ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves. Am I truly doing what I'm doing because it is what serves me the best? Or is it because I don't want to be without? And that without can be anything. Maybe there's fear involved with that. Or maybe you're looking for acceptance in a place or with a people. It's a thought to think about. But is it truly where and who you are? And what I mean by that is not by what others may say you are as an idea, or would it be something that you've been looking for to help you just think this is, and you can fill in the blank on what that may be. And what I mean also with this, and this also, not to look good or how, not to look good or show how we have changed, but look deep within and face our fears and wrongs and what we as fill in the blank of what in our growth to start to let go of it. This is the part that people struggle with. Letting go. After we work through these things and take those steps that are necessary, you remember them from the experiences, but they are not who define you after you've discovered these things. And that goes back to the enactment. Once you've discovered these things and these things that have been revealed to you, and you've looked in the mirror, that's when one has truly become honest with themselves. They do not allow themselves easily to fall back where they came from. It takes work, it takes a lot of work. It may mean in this, there may be people that you have to say goodbye to, places you visited and frequented it, gatherings, celebrations that were less than productive for your own purpose and being and health. Those are the hard things to let go of because they're familiar. It's a struggle, I know. I speak from experience in this. So, in the looking good in this, our ego and our pride on that aspect and that part of our ego can cause us to not want to. The part of our ego that is fragile, the part of our ego that says no because out of fear of what somebody might say, that might be hard to hear, that is their opinion based on how they live. So again, this, like I was mentioning in here, is an individual journey. And this is a very private journey. It's very personal. And it can be hard and it can be painful. But it is necessary if we are to grow. So with that, in these changes we're working to do, looking deep and face our fears and wrongs and what we as in our growth start to let go of. That goes with our ego. The things that entangled us to not succeed in our life or our path we have chosen to walk for growth. The familiar things, the things that were holding us back. And this step isn't about others, but as I was saying, about ourselves and taking those necessary painful steps while working to embrace this. This is not to belittle ourselves, but to start to turn away from can, what we are to become and can become, what we envision as a better version of ourselves. And I'm going to touch on that one a little more deeply. You know, people are saying, I'm living my best life. Okay. And a lot of times in today, and what we see and what people are influenced by is not always a truth. And people go, I'm living my best life. Are you living your best life based on what you want people to see and what you want people to believe? Whereas behind that curtain, your life is really in shambles and you're afraid of people to actually see where you are and what you are and who you truly are. Is that what you want people to see? The falsehoods, the farce, the mask? Or would you rather see somebody how you actually really are, the reality? But yes, that does make us vulnerable. And being vulnerable is a strength. It allows us to go further because we have stepped into a way of asking for help, a humility. We go, hey, I actually need a little help here. There's nothing wrong with that, but we have to be open to change where we are, who we are, what we're doing, how and what we're doing. Hey, we all struggle with this. I struggle with it. If we weren't human, we wouldn't. That's just the reality of it. That's the truth of the matter. And I get that as social people, that we need and want to be around others. Maybe some with the same ideals as us, same ideologies. But then again, let's look, are those ideals and those ideologies really where we need to be? Or are they just something we follow because we think this is where or what I'm supposed to be and who I am and what I'm doing? Now, take that as you will. That's fine. But it still begs the question, is it truly? And if it is, can you still live with this 10 years down the road? Can you really live with this choice and this decision of the way you live down the road? And if you can, are you going to live to tell the tale? And still be in one piece when you do? Ask yourself truly. And this painful steps while working to embrace this is not to belittle ourselves. Now, what I mean by that is that when we find these fact finding things, they aren't to belittle us as in put ourselves down. They're also known as character flaws. Okay. Things we've grown up with, patterns, all those things that we have fallen into. Maybe it was something that influenced as we were growing up. Maybe it's the crowd. Maybe it's just a way we have allowed ourselves unknowingly and ignorantly let happen. If that be the case, then it can still be changed and worked on. And I don't mean ignorant as an insult. I mean it as we are without knowledge, or at least the awareness of its presence within us and how we think or what we do and how we act or behave. It doesn't mean that what we were doing was wrong. It just means we didn't know a better way or a different way. We knew because it's what we were accustomed to. or might have grown accustomed to. So when we start to go through this, one goes through a change. When we're turning away from where we are to becoming where we want to be, that envision of a better person, a becoming of a different person, a better version. And remember that in this, don't say, I have changed out loud. All that does is let our ego get pet. That strokes our ego. Change is not change is in action. It is in what we do, how we look at people, how we interact with people, what we do in the company of people. And it is honest and it is true. And our truth isn't always that. And a lot of times, our truth is to just look good. It's just to appear. It's that curtain that we're trying to not open. But it is genuine. It has become the new reality in which you live by. It is your principles, and it has helped develop your character, your morals, and your ethics, your principles. Then you start to live by those, and you'll find that reflecting back, you have become but it's constant work, it's constant progress, it's constantly striving to uphold that. It's that is what helps one hold to it. Now, I'm not going to say every day we're going to all be perfect at this. No one is. And we have to allow ourselves those days and those moments that we do slip. But when we realize it, and if somebody mentions, hey, what's going on? Or we go, hey, oh, wow, I'm not having a good moment. But in this, in doing this work, we can realize where we're slipping, what we recognize. It's an old fear, it's an old behavior, as some people say, and in some of the recovery groups and even counselors will say, it's old tapes. They are what we want to go back to. They served us then, but they are no longer serving us now. That's what we work to work through, to walk away and turn away from. But we still always remember the experience and the lessons from it. Those are what keeps us from going back. Those are what keep us where we need to be. But they are the truths, the reality of what is actually causing us to do, think, and behave in the way we do. The actual reason. And for what they are for each person is different. Some are similar to others, but they're always unique to the individual. Now, I'm not saying because you've got a hand that doesn't work right, as an example, you take your axe and you chop off that hand. No, you learn how to rehabilitate the hand as best as you can and learn how to use the hand better in the way that it works. But you don't just get rid of the hand because it's not what you envision a hand to be. You work with the hand that you have. Take that as you will. And this brings us to that place we wanted to be, but we're unable to get there because of these things, these behaviors, these actions, these, oh, the traits, the thoughts that kept us from not the sabotage, the self sabotage, the relationships, the overdoing and being over stringent, always finding fault with others, but never ourselves, always demanding something from somebody else because we did not want to do it. Or we made an excuse on why we didn't want to do it, or we're unwilling to face the reality and the truth about how come we didn't. Now, there's a word that's being thrown around a lot lately, and I'm not going to use it because I'm not a licensed professional to do so. And it's being overly used today as a catchphrase in some ways, just to label somebody, to judge. But it's also being used by those that are actually the ones that this refers to as to avoid facing ourselves. And those are always looking to find fault in others, but never are willing to face their own. And one day, hopefully, this comes to light. Most of the times it doesn't. But in a lot of times, those that are truly willing and want to, and they're willing to do the work and put in the time, changes happen. But if necessary, with all of this, if need be, get help, seek professional help, do what you need to do for this. Find your spiritual path. But by all means, please do not get in a cult. Do not allow yourself to get sucked into a singular ideology. And anything outside of that is wrong. And so you've gotten yourself into a trap you cannot get out of. Always remember that if you're with a group of people that is willing to help you change, that doesn't oppose, is a good place to be. And any place and group that you're with that opposes is never a good place to be, because they will see people as the enemy. And those that truly want to see you grow and thrive are those that truly have your best interest in mind. So, as we face all of this and face that trial within us, to succeed and benefit, to help benefit others as well. And what I mean by that is that from our experience, we share it with others. We help them move along, move down the path that they walk. Be that honest person that they need. That the relationship you have with that person is what it needs. Not what the person needs, but what the relationship and the benefit of their growth and what it needs. It is an investment worthwhile. It is an investment that is worth taking the time to do. Each one of you is worth it. You might not feel like it. It might be one of those days and those times that you may not feel like it, or things just suck. But let me ask, is it going to suck worse the further down this road you go? Because it's easy to stay on that road of destruction, which causes you to stay in a victim mentality and play the victimatic role and set yourself up constantly for it because you're unwilling to walk away from it and grow from it and go through and take the act of change that needs to happen. Or are you going to stay there in that pile of stinky mess and keep yourself covered in it? That's up to you. But I will tell you, it does take work. It takes persistence. It takes tenacity. It takes the willingness to do it. So, in all of this, these are never easy steps. They do hurt and they are painful, but it's worth it. It can mean the difference between your life being and not. Seek the help. Take the time. Do what you need to do. If it means breaking off relationships, so be it. That's probably and possibly where you weren't needing to be in the first place. But if that person has something that's unhealthy for you and you keep going back, that's because that person doesn't have your best interest in mind. They never did in the first place. Or if it's that boyfriend or girlfriend, that person in a family that always throws these things up that keep stirring fear just to keep you where they want you. Are they really where you need to be and who you need to be with? And is it because that person has that one thing they do when you're having an intimate time with them that just really makes the planets explode? But other than that, nothing else is good. And that's all you search for? Then by all means, that is a very shallow life because you're hoping that maybe the next person might be able to do it better. That is no place to be. Maybe it's something that you're searching for, you're unwilling to dig with inside to find. Who knows? All we know is there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle. It's a long journey, but everything you go through to improve and to get better always opens up a broader path, always opens more doors for a better person and a better you. And you deserve all of it. Definitely. But again, when you're ready, it's always there. There's always places to be. But if there's ever a time when you don't know if you've got the time left in you, and those moments that are very dark for you and you don't know if you want to see the next day, by all means, call a phone number, call a friend, get the help. Don't sit there and stay in it. Because remember, those people you end up letting down and taking the easy way out, ask yourself, can you live with that before you end? Think about what you may miss, what they will miss, and the better days. Believe me, it's worth holding on. I know. I speak from experience, but it took the work for me to also realize that. And that is a bit revealing, but I figure it might help somebody else. And what brought me to learn these things, I didn't start out with. I had to learn them. I had to go through these steps. And I'm still doing them today. But there were days I didn't know. There were days I didn't know if I wanted to know. There were days that I didn't know if I even wanted to see the sun go down or the sun come up. I didn't even like where I was or who I was. Yeah. But it was because of these steps and other things that got me to be able to spread this to you, to spread this to those that are listening. Take the journey. Take those points that you need to get to. Go for it. They will bring you back to where you need to be. They can. They will. Won't be easy, but you might find joy in the discovery also. But remember, it's all a choice. It's all in decisions. What have you got to lose? That's all. Thank you, everybody. If you listen to this, great. I hope it serves you and brings you around to a better day. And if it's something just to help add to your toolbox, I'm glad it does that for you too. Anyway, Tal Griffin out. Thank you.